We are entering the 2024 Democratic National Convention's fourth and final day. Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris is set to speak tonight. Here to weigh in from Chicago on what we can expect to see tonight is Democratic strategist Nomi Konst. Thanks for coming on.
Good morning.
So we had a late night last night. Hopefully Kamala speaks at a reasonable hour. Fingers crossed. What are you expecting from Kamala?
It was a late night. It wasn't as late as previous nights. And if you, on top of that, they have all these after parties that are sponsored by different organizations and groups. And so I don't think people are living off the fumes right now. So I will say that last night, it did seem as if the DNC organizers got the message because it was much easier to get in and out as opposed to the night before where there was a mile-long line to go in and it was almost impossible to get out. So I do expect her to speak a little bit earlier. I think they're going to be very careful about keeping her in prime time. There were complaints that, of course, President Biden wasn't in prime time on Monday, that, President Obama just eked out a prime time on the East Coast. I don't think that's going to happen with Kamala Harris. So it's going to be interesting who they cut from the lineup because this lineup is still very long. And when you have speakers like last night, Bill Clinton, who was supposed to speak for 12 minutes, and he didn't, of course, you need to make sure that she's able to really finalize that message. But what are we expecting? I mean, I think she's, in words, I don't know. In tone, I think she's just going to keep this uplifting vibe, this positivity, this joyous sort of attitude. They're clearly honing in on freedom. Tim Walz last night talked about being a good neighbor. I think she's going to lean into that. I don't know if she's going to talk about the history of this, that she could be the first woman president and she's a Black woman, a woman of color, and a South Asian woman. I don't know if she's going to talk about that. I have a sense she's going to go more into her personal story. That's what her family members and her friends have really teased along the way with videos and speeches. So maybe she's going to take it from a more personal perspective and what this means to her and what this means to future generations. And Michelle Obama obviously went into that a little bit, but I don't even think it's going to be so heavy on policy. I think it's really going to be the kind of America that we want to see in the future versus, no, let's not go back, the line that everybody's been chanting.
Yeah, it sounds like we're hearing that people there are just, way more excited than they had planned to be 2 months ago when Joe Biden, a very unpopular candidate facing a likely loss, was going to be the candidate. And now there is just this, dramatic change that happened in a small window of time. And it sounds like everyone is pretty energized.
It's crazy. I mean, I was at an event last night around folks that I was on the opposite side of, not just in 2016, when I was working for Bernie, but it was, continuously. And these people were praising Tim Walz and my jaw dropped. I could not get over how the most institutional, big money Democrats were praising Tim Walz. And if there's anything a win, that's a win. I mean, if we can get the party to move in a Tim Walz populist direction, how much the last, 8 years of fighting was worth it. So yeah, people are excited. I mean, I was really shocked. One person in particular said that he was the best speech of the entire convention. And that was after Oprah, who say what you will about Oprah. She really gave that, she blew Obama out of the park. And that's hard to do.
Yeah, it was a bittersweet night seeing Tim Walz speak, how he said he wants a country where workers are put first, but then also having on everyone's mind what's happening in Gaza. And last night I spoke with a Harris Ceasefire delegate. They were in talks with the DNC about a Palestinian American coming on stage to speak during the convention. Yesterday, they were told essentially that's not happening. So delegates camped out until the DNC, and they're staying camped out, allows a Palestinian American to speak on stage. Last night, Representative Ilhan Omar joined the group. Among them was a delegate who was kicked out by security.
The first time they told me that I am violating the rules because I'm wearing a yellow t-shirt. My t-shirt is in violation of the rules. And I told them why. I can take off my shirt if my t-shirt if that bothers you. If you allow me to go around, because I don't want to be, they were trying to kick me out, so I was hanging on the rail to force them to force me. Because I don't want to abide without resistance.
That is a delegate from Iowa. He was chanting as security was pulling him out. saying, I'm a delegate and they're trying to kick me out. I'm a delegate. He's from Iowa. And what his T-shirt said was just Democrats for Palestinian rights. Now, among the potential speakers was Georgia State Representative Rua Roman, a Palestinian American. She spoke on the speech she planned to give. She wrote on X, "My speech urged us to unite behind Harris, criticized Trump, and spoke about the promise of this moment. The only reason we're doing this is to save the soul of our party and prevent bad actors from using our pain in an ongoing voter suppression campaign." So Nomi, can you tell us a little bit about what the scene is there at the DNC with these ceasefire delegates protesting?
Well, I've got to say that was despicable. If there's anything that we've learned, and it seems like in so many ways the Democratic Party, the institutional Democrats, have learned a lot since 2016. But in 2016, when we were on the floor and they were kicking delegates out, I saw the DNC staff members at the time and the security kick out a man who was in his 90s for holding a sign that said no to TPP. But they were leaving other delegates who had other signs that were not, the official signs of the convention. So, I mean, we need to learn our lessons from these events. And I think it's outrageous and despicable. And you have a right to free speech, but as a convention. And then, if they could have had a conversation with him. And I think that's what's really sad about this situation is, even though there's dialogue, it seems like they're using the same old tactics they used in the past, which was let's have dialogue, but at the end of the day, they really don't do anything. At the convention itself, it's very hard to get into the convention. As I said yesterday, or 2 nights ago, there was a long line to get into the convention. These are people who had passes, everything. Celebrities got turned away. I mean, it was a very difficult process because of security. So they have it's I think at least a mile or two is blocked off around the convention. So you really don't see any protesters. And even if you want to be part of the protests, to leave the convention and come back in, you might as well just give up your ticket. And if you're a delegate, that's even more difficult. In 2016, they did that too, but the marches and the protests were so big, and obviously the Bernie movement inside was so big as well, that they found ways to coordinate. But I think that Brandon Davis, the mayor here, has spoken about this, how he's been working with police to find a much different approach to keeping protesters in one area and away from the convention. And I don't even necessarily think it's because they don't want people to see it. I just think that they don't want protesters potentially to push through the convention, and they don't want that in and out relationship, because there are DNC members, I would say almost the majority of DNC members are supportive of Palestine in this cause. I'm not going to say everybody, obviously, but at least a ceasefire. And I think that they don't want to have that interaction between the protests on the outside and the convention on the inside. I think they're trying to isolate them and make them out to be some sort of extremists when they're not, as you saw. I mean, kicking somebody out for a sign and, giving people lip service for wanting to have a speaker who represents them in a time of major crisis, that's not outrageous. That's normal. News shows do it. Why can't the DNC? We're a big tent party.
Nomi Konst, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great morning.